right? Nested routes, route parameters, all of them able to achieve what we learned here in class. Yeah? Now, one more, the basic point you need to know here is about some route hooks. Already we learned everything, just list I will give. Already we discussed important. So list we will see actually route hooks, we already learned them. So like use params is one route hook, right? So we have use search parameters. I will show you params. So params, this is another hook. Use navigate. Navigate is another hook. Use location is another hook. And we have use history, but this is not there now, right? We don't have this. So these are the basic hooks. So use params, search params, navigate, use location, use history. Now, actually, as I told you that this is some hooks are outdated, no longer is available in the latest versions. Huh? Some important hooks like navigate, params and all we learned, we discussed already. Told you that location and history like things we don't use now here. They are in earlier versions. Now, I will show you old version routing at the end, how to use the old version routing also, because for that we will create a separate project. I told you that current version is, so we are discussing about the current version, that is 6, right? Yeah. So, and the previous versions are, so the previous versions are 5, right? In order to do that, I need to create separate project. At the end, I will show you old version, right? What are the changes? And at the end, we will discuss about that Redux. And I will give overview on Redux and React Native, React materials, such things we will discuss. We will do that with TypeScript. Directly, we will work with TypeScript. We will build an application. Other topics we will see through TypeScript. You can try with both JavaScript and TypeScript. In this already we know all these hooks actually. One more regularly used hook is this search parameters. I will tell you what it is, right? So here, yeah, search parameters actually it is using serialize. So form query by using this serialized form query options, it uses actually, it needs that. Actually, it is nothing but it is like location search option. I hope in JavaScript you learned about location search. Huh? What is this location search? In JavaScript, we use this location search. What is this location search? So who is this? Bhavani, we will discuss anything related to your concepts in later. Okay, right. So Angular, what? Yes, good, very good. And Bhavani got selected for Accenture. Very good. 15 lakh package. Huh? Very good. Great. Congratulations. Right. Good. Right. Yeah. So 15 lakh package with how many experience you given? 3.5, 3.9. Okay, good. right? Fine. So these parameters already, you know, location search, right? Location search. Location search is actually it is used for accessing parameters, query parameters, right? How we can access the parameters and work with them, right? So location search is used for query parameters. Means actually we have query string. We can set value into query string, access value from the query string by using location search. Location search. So generally, this is same done here also, because route parameters, in addition to route parameters, why we need query string? Because query strings are used to transport data across components. So we can also transport form data. You can also transport form data by using query strings. So you can access and use the query string by using this search, right? Just I will give you example here. Let's take the project, and here our application, and here already we have one component in running. So let's see in index what we have. Okay, iShop index is there. Fine. Let's create one simple component which can handle this. Okay, I will go to the components search demo.js. Yeah, and here we are creating export default function. So search demo, and it returns. So here we have, yeah. So such some search parameters, params. Okay. And here we need to import two things. Actually, we have to import. So use search parameters from React router DOM. We need this hook. Now, what we can do is we can configure, we can create a constant. So, and this is having one is search parameter, and the set search parameter. So here we will use params, use search parameters. Okay, we will use search parameters, right? Now, what is the purpose is actually to access query string. What will be in query string generally? Whatever the data you submitted through a form, you can collect the data through query string, right? Usually form data is submitted in two ways. One is on get, on post. If it is on post, it will be in form body. I already told you in server side API. If it is on get, it will be in query string. Sometimes if data is not so private, then we just transport the data through query string. In that case, what we do is form data is passed in query string. We have to collect and use it. So for that suppose we are designing a form. So we are creating a form, and in the form we are defining some data list, data term, some username, and we have some text box. Input type is text. Okay, and we have some data terms, some age, and the data definition like input type is equal to text number. So we have this. Okay, and this is having name as username. This is having like name as age, like this. And the form is having an option button like submit. Okay. Now I need to collect the data from the form. When it is submitted, we need to collect the data from form. Generally, how do we write event is usually for form submit, we have to write the event on submit. On submit, we will use some handle submit. So we will write a function here. So this function will be handle submit. And this is going to collect, we will use an event and we can access all the data. Right? Actually, event contains information about both object and the event. Already I told you, object related properties we can access by using target. Event related properties we can directly access, right? Client X, client Y, key code, character code, we can access directly by using event. Object related things we can access by using, we can do that by using general event.target. Actually, what we do is here, we are creating params. So a parameter params, we have to use a method called, we have serialize. So we have an option serialize. Actually, this is serialize form query. We have serialize form query. This serialize form query, so we have to use this serialize form query method and we need to get all the data. So event.target. Event.target means whatever data you submitted from the form, it will get the data and it will store in params. We need to serialize the form query and we need to access and use it. Now, whatever is there in the params, what we have to do, set search parameter. Into that, we have to pass those parameters, whatever you collected. That means all the search parameters are present inside this reference. Actually, search parameters means search parameters are used for collecting the query string. So what is difference between route parameter and search parameter? So route parameters are used to access the route here. So we have a local host that is 3000 / we have some products. In that we have 1. This is route parameter. And in that, suppose here, that means suppose we have category like some electronics. That means it will return all electronics. This is route parameter. In this, you can use a query. And here you can search. What is that? In electronics, so title is equal to, or we can say price, or we can say some subcategory or vendor, right? In electronics, vendor is equal to which vendor? So suppose any vendor related in some Samsung, like this I'm giving. This is called, so here we have two things. We have route parameters and we have search parameters. Generally, there are two techniques. Directly, you can access these search parameters, or you can pass the search parameters using form. You can collect that from the form. But here one problem is that means I will just use here, means I will put an alert. I will keep as what? Search parameter. Whatever search parameter is that. But remember, serializing form query and accessing the data from the form requires another technique to use. Here one problem will come. I will show you that problem. So I will keep this in the startup. What is it? Search demo. That is the component. Start. Yeah. Actually, the same thing generally what we do in our JavaScript based environment is we use location search. Location search is used for accessing query string and use the query string. Here we have to use this separate hook to access it. So if it, meanwhile, I can show you there here. Suppose see. Page, yeah. Actually, generally in script, so here I am giving, yeah. We use actually params is equal to, we have an option location dot search. This is going to get us all the queries and define. So here I will put an alert saying sub params, whatever the parameter it collected. But actually we have to submit with a form, usually. See, already running. Yeah, you can see here in this now. This is demo. Yeah. Here you can see I'm passing the values. So passing the values, see question mark. Some ID is equal to 1. I am passing that. You can see it will get that and show. That is the process of accessing query string. So whatever value you pass as query string, you can collect that. Multiple means ampersand name is equal to TV. It can get that and display. These are actually called as search parameters. We call these as search parameters. Generally in JavaScript, we do that by using this mechanism. We just use location search. Location search is used for managing the search parameters. We can use that here, but the problem is already we learned now that location is belonging to direct DOM, but React is dealing with virtual DOM. So that is the reason you need help of all these hooks. Why you cannot use direct DOM? Because React is not dealing with direct DOM. Even though it is using JavaScript, it is not using direct DOM. Through hook only you have to access those DOM. So that is the reason we have to manage by using this kind of options, right? Now here one error you can see, as I already told you that here. So this is not available actually. Serialize, right? Serialize form query is not available. This is not available. So to handle this serialized form queries, actually what we have to do is we need to set up environment which can access and work with the forms. So I will show you this in a different example with the help of working with general concept. General concept means with TypeScript, I will show you with one example, because we will create a separate project. Because in this project, if I set up that library for serializing, then it will affect the other forms. That is the reason, right? We will create a separate project. There we will see how this serialization works. Okay. But here, see, I will remove that serialize option here. That means I'm not using this. Generally, what we are doing is whatever search parameter comes. So that means we have to access that directly. We will use set parameters, search parameters. Into that, I will pass event dot what target. I'm directly passing that. When you pass directly that search values into this here, one important issue is whatever search parameter you have configured, it will collect that on button click, submit button click. So let's see here the error, what it shows. Here one more issue will come, because when you are submitting, one more issue will come. Use location. where we use the use location. Haven't used any use location here. This search parameter is using location. It can be used in only router, right? We don't have any router configured. We'll do one thing. We will use an browser router and keep this all in a browser router. Router context. This search parameters itself have an issue. Let's check. So use location issue. Such parameter is enough actually. Let's check once. Such parameter, it is there. I think this is now changed. Once we'll do. Please change it to URL search parameter. And use search is directly available, but some change in this router version 6. Use such parameter is available. Then here we have these are optional only, not required. Let's use effect. Use effect. We will follow this, and in the dependencies, such parameter. Okay, some problem in the okay, let me check this later. Okay, instead of wasting time here, because some change in this search parameter in the version 6, I will verify once where the change is, right? Actually, just you can configure search parameter and it will collect all the form data. It will means it will collect all the data that is in the query string. I will verify once. I will check later, then right, I will see why it is having an issue. Actually, this is enough to access, but it is showing an issue. Let's put an alert event dot what target. We'll see first. We are able to access this. Yeah, we will enter the details, some name and age, submit. So it is undefined, but URL parameters are passed here. So the search parameters are successfully passed, but we must able to collect these search parameters. So, and here when it is submitting, we will just use generally what we do. So we will use location, right? Location dot search. Actually, this will get all the parameters. And here I'm using those parameters, that is params. So whatever the parameters are passed, yeah, it's not working. So I will create here use location directly configured. LET location is equal to use location. Means I'm just verifying once. So whether it is able to access the parameters and handle them. No. Right. Some issue is there in the 6th version of search parameters. I will once check that what is the difference, what the change any made in that. Actually earlier we don't have any change, it works fine, but let me say check once. I will check and we will discuss in later session. Okay, so what is the difference, what is the problem in that search, but concept is same. What is the concept? So the purpose is we can access and we can use the data passed as a query string, passed as query string. Then let me see in a example. We will check once in version 6 what problem is that. Okay, right. Then in the next session I will show that how to access. And what is this use navigate? Already we learned use navigate. What is the purpose of use navigate? Use navigate is used for dynamically navigating, right? Dynamically navigating to any specified URL, any specified URL. Use params we already know, so it can access route parameters. So it can access the route parameters. Such parameters it is used to access. I will give here to access what? Query string. Query string. Query string can be accessed here. Okay. And use location so actually provides access to location object of DOM, right? What is that location object can do? So it can return so href, it can return path name, so etc. Reference and path name you can access. What use history can do is, so it can access the browser history, so it can push any content into history. So all these things it can manage. But in latest version we are not using these two. Already I told you that we are using location object. Navigate is using both location and history. Actually earlier version, in order to navigate dynamically, what we have to do is we have to use history is equal to use history, and here we need to access history dot push. We have to push the path so that you want to navigate. Now we are using use navigate. In early version we have to use this history. So these are the basic hooks you will find in route. These are the basic hooks you will find in route. And in that use params and use navigate we have used in the latest version. Earlier versions they use location and use history. Such parameters are same in both locations, but I will see what is the issue in the latest, right? In our project, why it is an issue. So these are all comes under the route hooks. Now if anybody asks, like in interviews, anybody asks like, so route cycle. So if anyone asks the route cycle, that means can you explain the route cycle in React? Then what are the phases in route cycle? What are the phases in route cycle? Actually, there is no specific concept like route cycle. But what are the phases in route cycle? Because these days we have seen people asking like this. That means what are the various phases of route cycle? Any idea? just like component cycle. Just like component cycle. Component cycle means component mounted, component changed, updated, and component unmounted. Similarly, do you have anything to tell about the route cycle? What about any phases you have observed in this cycle? Actually, there are certain phases also. Certain phases. What are the phases of the route cycle is? The first is browser router. Am I right? That is browser router. What is its responsibility? Browser router. What is its responsibility? The browser router responsibility is nothing but so map the virtual route to the actual DOM. That is first thing browser router will do. That means it is going to map the virtual route to the actual DOM. So that is done by browser router. Already I explained points about browser router. Second, after this, after browser router, that means after the configuration of browser router, then we have to, second phase is configure route table. Understood? Configure route table. That means configuring route table means configuring route table means configuring route table means we are creating routes. We are creating routes collection. Am I right? Configuring route is creating route collection. After configuring the route collection, the next step. So after configuring the route collection, we have to configure route, because route table is a collection of routes. That means this is managed by routes and this is managed by route. Configure the route. So after you configured the route, next what happens? That means browser router. After browser router, creating of routes collection, configuring and creating of routes collection, and in that configuring the route. After configuring the route, so next step. So here we have to configure the request and response. How request is configured? Request is configured by path. Path defines request, and response element defines response. Understood? So it defines response. That means path will define the request and element will define the response. That means what is the request to respond and what to deliver on request. What to deliver on request, that is. Now, where this requested content to be shown, then we have to configure outlet. That is what the process is. This is the basic process. Actually, there is no official cycle. For route, there is no official cycle. But to understand whether you know the architecture behind this routing, because I have explained the option. If you remembered, I told you routing engine, right? Routing engine. So we have request. So when request comes, the request will first come to HTTP processing pipeline. That will go to the handler. Handler will use a routing engine. That routing engine will verify from route table. And if it is available, then it will render that into outlet. That is the process actually. But officially there is no route cycle. So, but We have seen sometimes people asking this to just understand that whether they know the architecture behind this, right? That is the reason some points you need to know: browser router, routes and route, and path and element. How do you configure them and use them, right? These are all important things you need to know about route. So routes, nested routes, route parameters, route hooks, and route cycle. Now, if anybody asked you, so how do we authenticate routes? How do you authenticate routes? Actually, we don't have any implicitly defined route authentications. That means React will not have any route authentications. Route authentication means what? That means how you will design a route in such a way that it is not accessible to everyone. Am I right? That means how you can design a route which is not accessible to everyone. Actually, everyone can access the routes that you have defined. We have done that. There is no special implicit option, right? Authenticate routes. So React will not provide any predefined service for route authentication. It will not provide any predefined service for route authentication. You have to explicitly implement by using techniques like, you can use techniques like state, you can use techniques like cookies, and you can also use Redux, which I will tell you in later. That means because Redux also can maintain state values. Through that, you can even authenticate the routes. In that, you have seen cookies. By using the cookies, we can authenticate the route. So there is no specific inbuilt option for route authentications. So technically, route authentication is nothing but allowing only the valid users to access the route and restrict others. That is not implicitly provided because route don't have any guards. It will not provide any route guards. You have to explicitly do that. And we done. I showed you one example how we can give access to dashboard without real sign in. These kind of things we do using state, using cookies, using Redux, right? So Redux, you will see in the next level how to handle them, right? This is the basic point you need to understand about routes. That means the frequently asked questions about routes. How to dynamically navigate to any particular route? By using use navigate. That FAQ I given already, how to do that, right? This is all about the route and route related configurations. Now, once we know this, the next important, now we will start understanding the concept of how to work with React application by using TypeScript. That means the same complete environment we need to set up with the TypeScript also. Technically, what is TypeScript and why we need TypeScript? For that, first you need to understand what are the issues with JavaScript. We are using JavaScript as a language, and we used JavaScript as a language for React. Then what is the problem with JavaScript? What are the issues with JavaScript? There are so many issues with JavaScript. So one of the major issue with JavaScript is, so it is not implicitly strictly typed. It is not implicitly strictly typed. JavaScript is not implicitly strictly typed. Implicitly strictly typed means, it is not implicitly strictly typed means, for example, suppose see here, That means here I will give you a simple option. Yeah. Suppose I am giving here, so x equal to 10 and document dot write x is equal to plus x. Is it valid? X is a variable. I am not declaring variable and I am trying to use a variable without declaring. Is it possible to use a variable directly without declaring? In JavaScript, it is possible. If JavaScript is not in strict mode. If JavaScript is not in strict mode, that means currently it is possible. It is working fine. But we don't want this to happen. That means we want our developers to strictly follow the rules. We don't want the developers to violate these rules because it leads to abnormal behavior. In that case, then how you can tell JavaScript that you must follow these type of rules? Then we ask our developers to turn on strict mode for JavaScript. That means we have to turn on the strict mode by using use strict. I hope you know this. Use strict is explicitly enabling JavaScript in strict mode. Enabling in strict mode. That means you can see now it is not allowing. So now X is not defined. I have to declare X. Now this is fine. It's working. So implicitly JavaScript, this is called strictly typed. It is called strictly typed. JavaScript is not implicitly strictly typed. It needs strict mode to turn on. It needs strict mode to turn on. That means you have to explicitly manually write use strict. That is important. How you will turn on the strict mode? By using use strict. That is one problem with JavaScript. What will happen if I do not use strict mode? Lot of inconsistency in code will happen. One developer will declare, another one will not declare. This is lot of inconsistency that we cannot avoid. That is the reason we have to use strict. Right? Another important problem with JavaScript, it is not strongly typed. JavaScript is not strongly typed. What is difference between strictly typed and strongly typed? We have seen in React interviews this question asked for several freshers. Because React interviews lot of questions you can expect from JavaScript. Right? 40% React interview questions will be on JavaScript. So that is in many React interviews, we have seen this question. What is strictly typed? What is strongly typed? Strictly typed is about the code consistency. Strongly typed is about data type. About data types. That means, for example, data type is, for example, so we defined X is equal to 0. That means it is number. I assigned a number. After that, I am assigning a string. Is it valid? It is valid. It should not be valid. Now, there is no restriction. It will take. There is no restriction for types. Then we have to explicitly verify and write functions for validating the types. That is very risky. These days, we need a language strongly typed. That means it is not strongly typed. It is not strongly typed. That means we say var x equal to 0. That means it is number. Into that x we assigned a, then it becomes a string. Into x you assign true, then it becomes a boolean. That's not good. It is not strongly typed. Another important is it is not an OOP language. JavaScript is not an OOP language. It supports only few features of OOP. It is not a OOP language. It supports only few features of OOP. Due to that, what are the problems? Code level security issues are there. Code level security issues. That means, so we have extensibility issues. Extensibility issues will be there. At high level, a project you are developing using React like technologies, then it should have code level securities. It should support good extensibility, loosely coupled and extensible architecture. But JavaScript is difficult. So code level security not there, accessibility not there, extensibility is not easy. So that is all the basic issues with JavaScript. For example, how means simple things like, so we don't have any interfaces. That means no interface. We don't have any abstract classes. We have a class, but we cannot have an abstract class. So we cannot have any access modifiers. These are all the issues. An OOP language must have these. That means we need interface, we need abstract, we need access modifiers to handle code level security and extensibility. JavaScript will not support all this. JavaScript have class, but no abstract classes, no specific static and non-static members. So no read-only members. That means no read-only means we have to put read-only by using accessors. By using accessors, we need to make the properties as read-only. So that is all we need to know here. A lot of issues are there. These are all the major problems. These are all the major problems with JavaScript. That is the reason at large scale development, so it becomes difficult for developers. Remember, these are all not impossible things. These can be done through JavaScript, but explicitly. Then if you have a language which can implicitly handle this, that is good. And that is what actually TypeScript can do. So the solution for this is TypeScript. The solution for this is TypeScript. Actually, TypeScript is not a new concept. So TypeScript is not a new concept. Actually, TypeScript introduced by Anders Hazelberg. So Anders Hazelberg introduced TypeScript. So in 2003, TypeScript is there. Anders Hazelberg. So Anders Hazelberg of Microsoft. He's an architect in Microsoft. So actually, so he developed a language for Microsoft called C#. He developed a language called C# and TypeScript also. TypeScript. But very important is TypeScript is there with Microsoft from several years, but developers are not aware of that TypeScript. Developers are not aware of TypeScript. Actually, what happened is Google started a language called ETScript. They started a language called ETScript to replace JavaScript. Google started a language called ETScript to replace JavaScript because they have issues with JavaScript. But what Google saw was, Google was trying ETScript as a language, But suddenly Microsoft people saw that Google is trying same what they already have. That means Microsoft saw that Google is trying the same which already Microsoft is having. Then they asked Google, why can't you try this? But till that moment, Microsoft is not a player of open sources. They were not open source. Recently, they become open source. Earlier, Microsoft technologies are not open source, right? That means they are not for general communities. Microsoft, only Microsoft. But if Google have to use this, why they developed TypeScript? Google started this at script for their technology called Angular, right? So Google started this at script for their technology called Angular, and Microsoft saw that already we have that. Then Microsoft asked Google, why can't you take a look at our TypeScript? Then Google was satisfied with that. Google was very much satisfied in that, and they started implementing it in their technology called Angular. That means from Angular, Google started using TypeScript with Angular. They started using with Angular. Then React started using TypeScript. So before that, JavaScript. Even Angular was used with JavaScript. Now React, Angular, Vue, all these are now using this TypeScript. What is such specialty about TypeScript? So that means what are the features of TypeScript? What are the features of TypeScript? First important feature, TypeScript is strictly typed. It is strictly typed. TypeScript is strongly typed. TypeScript is an OOP language. It is an OOP language. That means it will support all features of OOP. Everything. It is strictly typed. It is strongly typed. It will support all features of OOP. And actually, it is more better than any other OOP language. Now, many times people ask, okay, if I have to use a OOP language, why can't I use Java, C++? Right? Because if I have to use a OOP language, then why can't I use any another OOP language? If you are looking for OOP. But actually, what is the specialty about TypeScript when compared to other OOP languages is TypeScript is built with TypeScript. That is the great feature about TypeScript. Do you know all your OOP languages are not built with that language? Understood? That means all your OOP languages, they cannot directly interact with hardware services because they don't support low-level features. They cannot directly interact with hardware services. That means they use a low-level language in the background. But very important is TypeScript supports all low-level features. Low-level features. It supports all low-level features. That means it can directly interact with hardware services. And it is faster. And it is lightweight. And very important, don't think TypeScript is for React or Angular. TypeScript can individually can build large scale applications. TypeScript can build individually large scale applications. We are using TypeScript just to overcome the issues of JavaScript. Don't underestimate TypeScript. It is a very huge language. Individually, it can build large scale applications. We are just utilizing its features to develop web applications. So, but it is never developed for web, means for our requirements. It is already used by Microsoft for its internal web technologies, right? So now they made it as an open source. Now it is available globally. Everybody can use. Everybody can use. So TypeScript have a lot of features when compared to JavaScript. But very important is TypeScript is not understandable to browser again. Is not understandable to browser. Then what we have to do? This is same concept. Like I hope you already know. I told you. Like suppose you know in real-time projects we are building an application. So we are building an application. In this application, I need very complex CSS effects. Not simple, very complicated, very big lot of CSS animation effects I have to design. It's very complex CSS effects. I have to design application. Do you know developers will not use direct CSS? Will not use direct CSS. What they will use? They use Sass. They use less. You know, you heard about them. We use Sass and less. We don't use CSS directly. What is problem in CSS? Reusability issues, separation issues. Then what Sass and less can do? They can make your CSS simplified. But your project cannot understand Sass and less. Web page can understand only CSS. Then why you are writing Sass and less? So you are utilizing the features and you are building an application so fastly, effectively. But it is not directly understandable to application. Then what it will do? The Sass and less are translated into CSS. So finally, your project have to use CSS. But as a developer, we don't prefer CSS. As a developer, we prefer using Sass and less. So we need to translate this into CSS. That is important. This makes the development easy, faster, but effective. That is the same concept. Without JavaScript, your web application will not work. Web application can understand only JavaScript. But as a developer, you are not satisfied with JavaScript. So what you are doing, you are using TypeScript. Is TypeScript understandable to the browsers? No. That means TypeScript need to be again translated into JavaScript. That is the reason in some situations, you are not forced to use TypeScript. In some situations, you are not forced to use Sass and less. But in some situations, mandatory because the scale of application. Because of the scale of application, it's mandatory that you have to use Sass or less. You have to use TypeScript. That is the reason TypeScript is not always mandatory for anybody who is learning React. Right? But in the modern web development at large scale applications, TypeScript becomes a mandatory part these days because it have more effective building process, some more effective features when compared to JavaScript, and it makes everything better for developer. Developer interest TypeScript, but application understandable is JavaScript. It's same like, for example, see here, I will show you the point. Suppose see here, I created a document here. Suppose doc type HTML, some head, some title, some demo. In that we have a body. So in that we have a div, and this div is having a class called box. Now, so here similarly, I created another box called box 2. Now I have another box called box 3 like this. Now very important is I want to access, here I am writing a style. So wherever div is present, so width is 100 and height also 100 and border as So border as 2 pixels, solid red, something. Okay, now you can see it looks like this. All the divs are like this. Now what I want to do is I want to access these 3 boxes. And the first box is here. Second box must be at 100 pixels. That means second box must be here. Third box must be here. First box must be here. Understood? I want to arrange like this, like a ladder. Now the question is how to access these 3 boxes. Generally, how to access these 3 boxes? So we have to access box 1, one effect, box 2, another effect, box 3, another effect. In CSS, is there any technique to access all these 3 boxes? Suppose we have other divs, we should not access them. We need to access all these 3 boxes only. Class name is not same, it is different. It is 1, 2, 3, like that. Now, as a developer, there is no chance. What we have to do? We have to use box 1, what effects you want. You have to use box 2, what effects you want. But see, now as a developer, it is becoming difficult for us. Then what I am doing is, I am adding a new file. I will say effects.scss. This is SCSS, SAS. Here I am writing a simple. We are writing here at the net for. We don't have a for loops or if conditions in CSS, right? I am writing a for. So for I am giving here $I. So from 1 through, so how much? 4. 3 means 1, 2, 3, 4. We need to define 1 through 4. We have to access box. Box is a class, na? Box hyphen. Here we use an expression. We have to access $I like this. Now we will put here margin left. So 100 pixels. 100 pixel into 100 pixel into suppose I given here as some 2 or say I 100 pixels into I. This is something like some programming you written. That means what is this? You are accessing I value from 1. That means it will be box 1. 100 into 1 is 100. So second box it will be 2 into 100, 200. Third box will be 300. Now see what I am doing here. I am compiling this. Let's compile this. I am compiling this. Yeah. I will use a SAS effects.scss into effects.css. I am translating this into CSS because my browser cannot understand. So my browser cannot understand this, where it is present in shopping. Effects. Okay. I given the name as effects.scss. Okay. Now it is translated. You can see there is a CSS file created for it. I created a SAS file translated into CSS. You see this CSS contain all the same code, right? Now your browser can understand only that CSS. That means what we do, we link relation is equal to style sheet href is, so it is in /, it is effects.css. That means we are using effects.css. And you can see it will apply that for those 3 boxes. As a CSS designer, you have to design like this, but it is very risky for you. Now you have done this in simple way. This is what the concept of TypeScript is for you. That means without TypeScript also you can write, but TypeScript will make it easy for you. That is only the point. So is TypeScript application choice or developer choice? Developer's choice. It's not mandatory, right? You cannot say that TypeScript is mandatory for React developer or Angular or Vue developer. It's depending on, nobody will force actually until or unless the application is in TypeScript. That means many people don't know TypeScript with React. They just know React with JavaScript, right? And if they learn TypeScript and they can design with React, that's good. But React application will not change any of its behavior. That means using TypeScript will not make React application faster. Understood? Nothing will be fast. No change in performance. You are using if there is no change in performance. Just to reduce the issues of JavaScript, leverage the benefits of TypeScript, and make developers' life easy in designing complex things. Extensibility will be easy, maintainability will be easy, testability will be easy, and it is easy for developers to restrict the types. We don't need to take care about JavaScript. It will translate everything into JavaScript. If I have to do that manually in JavaScript, I can do, but it will take a lot of time. So developers are asked to avoid this. That is the reason TypeScript becomes mandatory. And a very interesting fact about TypeScript is just 1 week, 10 days back, Microsoft had made a successful trial run of TypeScript directly running in browser. That's a great revolutionary step. And in future, if it is completely possible, because that is just a trial run and successful, they announced that it was successful. Now, if they concentrate on that, by the time of 1 year, there will be no more JavaScript, because now TypeScript can directly run on browsers, which is not possible now, right? But they made that trial run successful. And that means we are expecting the TypeScript to directly run in browsers, but not sure, because a lot of issues will be there. They have to address everything, right? So majority compatibility issues will come. Compatibility issues will come. If they can address that, that is good. That means that will be the future. So this, we have to understand how TypeScript works now. That means how TypeScript is different from JavaScript. The language part, if you know, we can directly implement. So first we will learn all the language difference, right? TypeScript OOP concepts and TypeScript language basics. So then we can use that in our React application. And rest of all the part we will finish with TypeScript only, right? We will end this course with TypeScript and React. Okay, then that will continue next session tomorrow. Tomorrow we will see practically working with TypeScript. Okay, right.